somewhere in Arizona, a fortune in gold waits. Buried, hidden, and cursed. Men have spent their life savings searching for it. Others have walked into the desert and never walked out. No one has...
We just haven't found it yet.
Right.
Or if they have, they haven't told us.
The it is gold, but not just any gold. Sarah Toms Bergquist is talking about the untold treasure waiting to be discovered in the famed Superstition Mountains.
Officially found it. No one can prove it doesn't exist. This is the Lost Dutchman Mine, and it may be the most dangerous treasure hunt in American history. By the end of...
To do with the Dutchman. The Dutchman, of course, was a real person. Just about everything is known about him here in America when he arrived, except how he got to California with the 49ers. They don't know if he went around the Horn or he walked across the Isthmus or that he went overland or what. That's about the only thing they don't know about him being here. But in 2004, two doctors, Dr. Ortega...
This video, you'll know exactly why this legend refuses to die, who started it, who died chasing it, and why thousands of people are still out there right now, searching through one...
Which in today's dollars would be around 700 million.
The Superstition Mountains are sacred territory to the Apache Native Americans who are indigenous to this area.
So according to Apache lore, the Superstition Mountains are named as such because it's the home of their thunder god, who lives in the mountain, and according to their legend, he will kill anyone who trespasses there.
The most unforgiving stretches of land in the entire United States. The Superstition Mountains sit roughly 40 miles east of Phoenix, Arizona. They cover about 160,000 acres, which works out to around 250 square miles of raw, jagged wilderness. The terrain is brutal. The heat is punishing. The trails twist through canyon walls that seem to go nowhere, and cliffs that drop without warning. This is not a place that forgives mistakes.
Two doctors, Dr. Ortel and his brother, both Germans, one still living in Germany and one still here. Their father was a genealogist, and they've done genealogy too, and they had become interested somehow in the Lost Dutchman legend, and they decided to try to find this guy.
And yet, for well over a century, people have been pouring into these mountains, looking for something that no one has ever officially confirmed exists. The story starts with a man named Jacob Waltz. He was a German immigrant, not Dutch, which trips people up immediately. The nickname came from an old American habit of calling anyone with a German accent a Dutchman, rooted in the German word for German, which is Deutsch. So the man at the center of this entire legend wasn't Dutch at all. He was German, and he arrived in the United States in 1848. Waltz eventually made his way to Arizona, and by the 1860s, stories began spreading that he had found something extraordinary in the Superstition Mountains. Not just traces of gold, a rich vein of it, the kind of deposit that could make a
story about an old man that he'd seen in the Superstition Mountains. And this old guy appeared to be mining. After he left, Pips went over and checked it.
It was the richest mine Pips had ever seen. He told Dick it contained seams of gold ore 18 inches wide. With the keeper of the mine out of the way, Pips began helping himself.
And wealthy beyond anything he had planned for. He never filed a formal mining claim. He never showed anyone exactly where he had been. He just showed up in town with gold ore from time to time, and that was enough to make people pay attention. For decades, Waltz kept his secret. He lived quietly, said little, and revealed nothing about where the gold came from. Then, in 1891, close to the end of his life, he reportedly confided in a woman named Julia Thomas. She was a local resident who had been kind to him, and in his final years, he shared what he knew about the mine. The details he gave her were vague enough to be maddening, but specific enough to keep hope alive. He described the location in ways that suggested he knew exactly where it was, but wasn't ready to hand it over completely. Waltz died without ever revealing the precise location. That was in 1897, and the moment he was gone, the hunt began in earnest. Julia Thomas took what he had told her and tried to find the mine herself. She failed, but she talked, and the story spread. And within years, it had taken on a life of its own. The details shifted. The estimates grew. What started as one,
which in today's dollars would be around 700 million.
The Superstition Mountains are sacred territory to the Apache Native Americans who are indigenous to this area.
and secret became something much bigger than any single person could contain. The legend says the gold is still there. Some estimates claim the mine holds over $200 million worth of gold ore, though no one has verified that figure. It is the kind of number that sounds designed to keep people searching. And it has worked. Since the 19th century, thousands of treasure hunters have attempted to locate the mine. The exact count is impossible to pin down, as noted by the New York Times in 1992. But the number stretches into the thousands across generations. By the 1930s, the mine had become something of a national obsession. The first known organized expedition to locate it launched in 1931, and the attention it drew brought even more searchers to the Superstition Mountains. In the 1940s and 1950s, the pace picked up further. Treasure hunters arrived in greater numbers. Mining companies took an interest. People came with maps, tools, and theories, and most left with nothing. Some did not leave at all. The Superstition Mountains have claimed lives. The exact number of deaths tied to the search for the Lost Dutchman Mine is hard to confirm, as reported by the Arizona Daily Star in 2019. But multiple people have died in the area over the decades. Some fell from cliffs, some got lost in the maze of canyons and died from exposure or dehydration. The terrain itself is the danger. Summer temperatures in that region can exceed 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Water sources are scarce. Cell phone signals disappear quickly once you get deep into the mountains. A wrong turn at the wrong time of year can turn a treasure hunt into a survival situation within hours. And still, people keep going. Part of what keeps this story alive is the curse. Every great treasure legend has one, and the Lost Dutchman Mine is no different. Treasure hunters have spoken for generations about the misfortune that follows those who seek the gold. Equipment fails, people get injured, expeditions fall apart under strange circumstances. The curse has never been proven, obviously, but the pattern of bad luck that surrounds this place has been consistent enough that it has become part of the story itself. Whether you believe in curses or not, the mountains have a way of turning things against the people who enter them unprepared. The Superstition Mountain Historical Society has worked for years to document and preserve the history of the region. They collect accounts, study records, and maintain archives related to everything connected to the Superstition Mountains, including the legend of the Lost Dutchman Mine. Their work sits somewhere between historical preservation and ongoing investigation, because the story is not finished. It is still being written by everyone who walks into those mountains with a shovel and a theory. In 1974, author and treasure hunter Dr. J.J. McCarthy published a book that added a new wave of attention to the legend. Books like that have a particular power with treasure hunts. They introduce the story to people who had never heard it, reframe old details in new ways, and send fresh waves of searchers out into the field. The cycle of interest and obsession tied to the Lost Dutchman Mine has worked like that repeatedly, each new book or documentary reigniting the whole thing. In 2009, Arizona State University conducted a study in the area around the Superstition Mountains. Researchers went in with that in mind, examined the terrain, and came out with no treasure, no discovery, no confirmation. That is not unusual, and it did not stop anyone. The absence of evidence in a search covering 250 square miles of rugged, unmapped terrain proves very little. The mountains are simply too large, too complicated, and too unforgiving for any single effort to rule anything out. Historians tend to land in a different place than the treasure hunters. Many of them view the Lost Dutchman Mine as a myth, or at least as a heavily exaggerated version of something that may have once been a much smaller story. The theory is that Jacob Waltz may have found some gold, or may have simply claimed to, and that the story grew in the telling until it became something that bore little resemblance to whatever the original truth was. That is how folklore works. A real event, even a modest one, can become enormous once enough people start passing it along. The treasure hunters push back on that view. They point to the gold ore that Waltz reportedly showed people. They point to the fact that the Superstition Mountains sit in a region of Arizona that does have documented gold deposits in the surrounding areas. The geology is not a fantasy. Gold has been pulled from the land around there before. The argument is that just because no one has found the specific deposit Waltz described does not mean it was never there. That debate has been running since 1897 and shows no sign of ending. What makes this particular legend so stubborn is the combination of factors working together. You have a real man, Jacob Waltz, with a real history. You have a real landscape, the Superstition Mountains, that anyone can visit. You have real deaths, real expeditions, real organizations dedicated to the search. The elements of verifiable history wrap around the mystery tightly enough that it never quite lets you dismiss the whole thing. Every time you pull on a thread, you find something solid underneath. And then the solid part ends, and the mystery picks back up exactly where it stopped. As of 2024, interest in the Lost Dutchman Mine continues to grow. New treasure hunters are planning expeditions. Recent books and documentaries have brought the story to audiences who are encountering it for the first time. No credible discovery has been reported. No one has walked out of the Superstition Mountains with confirmed evidence that they found what Jacob Waltz spent his life protecting. The mine, if it exists, is still out there. The Superstition Mountains are open to the public. The Tonto National Forest manages much of the surrounding land. People hike, camp, and explore there every year. And every year, mixed in among the hikers and the campers, there are people carrying maps and old documents and freshly printed theories, walking deeper into the canyon walls, looking for something that has been missing for well over a century. The question of whether the Lost Dutchman Mine is real has never been answered. But the question of why people keep searching for it, that one is easy. Because 250 square miles of wilderness is a lot of ground to cover. Because gold is gold. Because Jacob Waltz clearly knew something, even if no one ever confirmed exactly what it was. And because there is a particular kind of person who hears a story like this and cannot simply walk away from it. That is the real curse of the Lost Dutchman Mine. Not bad luck, not falling rocks, not the heat. It is the idea itself. Once it gets into your head, it does not leave. And somewhere in those mountains east of Phoenix, under the same Arizona sky that Jacob Waltz looked up at more than 100 years ago, the gold, if it is there, is still waiting.